Hey everyone, Kevin Atwell here for Close Look. I'm in Burnaby on this beautiful, gorgeous, sunny day. Extremely privileged to talk to a talented individual by the name of Anirudh Chawla. Director, broadcaster, writer. I'm so excited to talk to him and I hope you guys are too. So let's go and take a close look.
Your work always tells a story. Let's have a close look.
Hey guys, I'm sitting next to Anirudh Chawla, a man of many talents. Anirudh, how are you doing this afternoon?
The way I usually greet my audience on radio in Mumbai is how I will greet your audience. Hello, hi, hi. That's the way I usually start my show.
Hello, hi. Hi.
I know it's cheesy, but it works.
Wonderful. So tell us how you got involved in radio. I know you are a broadcaster. If I'm not mistaken, you've done a bit of writing and you are also a director. So let's start with one and continue down the line. Broadcasting, where did it start and where did the passion come from?
Well, thanks to all you Vancouver folks here. Rim Jim Radio is where I started my foundation about 21 years ago, though that kind of tells you my age, I guess. But yeah, Rim Jim Radio, I started with that. I was here for a good many years. Then I went to India. I worked with All India Radio, then Radio City, and now I'm with 92.7 Big FM, which is owned by Reliance Company, one of India's largest companies, owned by Anil Ambani. And that's like a national show I have there, 2 to 5. Plus, in the meantime, I also wrote for a film called Dil Lagi with Sunny and Bobby Deol. I wrote for a lot of television shows like Khulja Sim Sim, it's a game show, and hosted a bunch of TV shows. And then now I decided, now that I'm kind of financially settled, which you have to be if you want to, survive in Mumbai, now I decided to make my own films. So here I've just finished my first film.
Wonderful. And what is your, so now we're transferring into the sort of director side of things. This is your first film, and what's the name of it and sort of what is it about? Is this your first time ever sort of being behind a camera?
Yes, I kind of assisted on Dil Lagi, but this is the first time really speaking. This film has been like a filmmaking course for me, and it worked again thanks to radio and Facebook. I mean, thanks to both of them, because with radio what happened, I had a whole bunch of listeners and fans already. Then I decided to set up my own community on Facebook called Filmwalas, which helps people get work in the media. And once that became successful, I decided, hey, we're helping people get work for other companies. Why not make our own films? Why crib about Bollywood favoring the lucky few? You know, we always say we have only a few directors, a few actors, wahi Shah Rukh Khan, wahi Akshay Kumar, wahi Katrina Kaif. So stop cribbing, let's make our own films. So I came up with this concept of shareholding, which is quite new in India. It's been done by only one other director as far as I know, Onir, who just made a film called I Am. So what I decided was, let's make a film in a budget of 20 lakh rupees, which is about $45,000, which is like dirt cheap. And essentially have all of us as shareholders, $100 a share, where there's no risk, and we made India's first reality film, Balls.
Balls?
Yes, you've got to have the balls to make a film like that, because it's probably going to be probably the world's most controversial film.
World's most controversial film. That's a huge thing to say. You got to back it up with some information for our viewers. How is it controversial? What types of scenarios could we expect to find in a film called Balls?
Well, to begin with, we're making India's first reality film, so that's something is making history in a way, because as you know, reality TV shows are so popular. So I said, why not make a reality film? It's never happened before. So what we essentially did was we took 12 people in India who represent Indian society, and 12 people who had the balls to talk about love, sexuality, relationships, marriage. We put them in a house for 3 days. I was the 13th guy. I was like basically the one who provoked them. And we took 12 people, right from an Indian traditional housewife of 50 years old to a husband who's cheated on his wife like 500 times, to a gay man, to a rickshawala who's uneducated, to a...
And for our viewers that may not know what a rickshawala is, what is a rickshawala?
Well, it's like the auto, it's like the local form of transport in India, like the auto rickshaw. And
so that word translates into an individual who drives rickshaws.
Yeah, basically I wanted somebody who represented the lowest common denominator, somebody who's uneducated, who does not, who would not be able to express himself generally, but who also is probably forming the hardcore masses of India, because 70% of India are still uneducated and illiterate and live in a rural setting.
Wonderful. And so what are some other individuals that are portrayed in of those 12 individuals of Indian society?
We had a couple of models, some very, very liberal young boys and girls for whom sexuality is no big deal. Then we had a couple who are in interracial, intercultural relationship, who are against their parents' wishes marrying each other. Then we had a gay man, and we had a wife who's in an open relationship with a husband, who basically allows a husband to go out, knowing that that's the reality of a man perhaps. And then basically my idea was to take these 12 individuals and ask them the most uncomfortable questions ever asked by anyone.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear what kind of questions these are. Can you give us a little bit of a flavor of what kind of questions you asked, please?
So assuming we have a general audience here, the questions that we asked were everything from religion, inter-caste marriages, to homosexuality, to bitching about your mother-in-law, your relatives, talking about HIV, AIDS, everything from sexuality or sexual preferences, to incest, child abuse. We basically went the whole hog, and everything that we Indians are uncomfortable about facing, I wanted us to basically face our demons. And because these 12 people had the balls to talk about their uncomfortable truths, I wanted them to be, in a sense, an inspiration for the rest of society, because we all have uncomfortable secrets.
Yeah. Hence the name of the movie, Balls.
Yeah. And the most interesting part of the film is that, like a TV show, this is the first time in history of cinema when people come out of the theatre, they get to vote for those 12 people who they thought had the biggest balls amongst those 12 people. So for 1 week after the film releases, there will be a voting process on radio and television, and one of those lucky 12 people will get 5 lakh rupees, which is, I guess $100,000.
So that could really change somebody's life. Can you imagine a rickshawala receiving 5 lakh rupees just for having the balls to come on and tell his or her story?
And not only that, what I really want is to create a mini revolution of sorts, because we'll also be giving people on radio and television who have the balls to tell their uncomfortable truths, things that they have gone through, whether it is being molested as a child, being raped, whether it is about their relationship with their parents, their husband, being abused or molested by a boyfriend. All these uncomfortable truths, people who reveal those will also be awarded prizes. So the idea is to basically create a revolution of sorts.
Hi there, my name is Sophie Louie from Global BC, and you're watching Close Look.
So Anirudh, as a child, as an individual in elementary school and high school, what was your passion? What did you sort of always say to yourself, hey, I want to grow up and be blank? Can you fill in that blank for us?
Yeah, I think being an Indian, unfortunately or fortunately, my passion was to become a doctor, because that's how we were always trained to be, either doctors or engineers, which is great. These are all great professions. But I think we as Indians tend to be very boxed and categorized and stereotyped. We've always restricted ourselves.
Has it been us who restrict ourselves, or are we sort of geared and are we like a product of what our parents want us to be?
I think it's practically being brainwashed by Indian society of sorts, which is why I think I really appreciate coming to Canada, because here I learned the value of individuality, the idea that you should dream specifically to what you want to become. And thanks to my parents' support, and I realized that actually medicine was not my calling, and it was actually music, and it was films. So that's where my radio journey started. And I realized, again, being in Canada, that you can make a career out of an unconventional, like for example, radio was considered a very unconventional career. Only when I went to India and I started radio there, because radio was quite new there as well. Now suddenly it's become a huge thing, but it wasn't back then. Right. So I always tell people, that you have to dream. If you dream of becoming Amitabh Bachchan, you might land up as Jimmy Shergill. But if you dream about being Jimmy Shergill, you might end up becoming becoming Rajpal Yadav, if you dream of being... So you always aim for the high thing, and then you'll be somewhere. You might not reach the top slot, but that's okay. You can get success on your own terms and your own way. You know?
Wonderful. So you mentioned earlier about the pressures of society and how it can be difficult for an individual to pursue their individual goals. What were some of the challenges that you faced in pursuing your goals?
I think the first thing, the most important question you need to ask yourself is, what do I really want to do in life? And what am I really good at? You know, so I realized I'm good at talking, so I decided to be a radio host. Half the time in Indian society, we're not asked to question ourselves, to question our family, to question society. We just are told you do this and you do that. In my case, I broke all the rules. I didn't get married at the time I was supposed to. I didn't exactly have children when I was supposed to. So I think you have to be unafraid to break the tradition and the rules and just do it, and also take the risk, because when I left for Mumbai, I had absolutely no guarantee, and 1997 is when I left, as I had no, at that time the film industry wasn't what it was today. So I was taking a huge risk. And I think another thing that you need to do is you need to be ready to face the world in every which way. So I did everything from hosting live shows on the streets to writing for television to whatever came my way. I didn't say that, oh, I have to become a star and I will only act on the big screen and I'll do only this. So you have to be ready to do everything, try out all your skills, meet a hell of a lot of people, and absorb everything from everybody. And also I think patience is very important if you're in Mumbai, because if you're planning to get to Mumbai and become a star in 1 year, dude, it's not going to happen.
Or LA, in Hollywood for that matter, because the advice, I believe, is sort of for aspiring directors, broadcasters, artists, musicians. And so you must have been really scared in moving from Canada to Mumbai. Did you have a good support network when you went there, or did you go there just entering yourself into Mumbai and saying, let's see what I can do? Were you frightened? How did you feel?
I think the important thing is to believe in yourself, because, like, for example, when I was coming to Mumbai, everybody scared me that pollution and the traffic and it's chaotic and there's a lot of corruption and stuff like that. But I just did it. I had family, of course, but they didn't really help much, frankly speaking. They were there, kind of there, relatives. But ultimately, you have to believe in yourself. There were people who promised me stuff. They didn't fulfill that. But I think another trick is to also have a lot of different skills. Like, for example, besides doing radio, I knew I had the skill of writing. So I was writing for television shows, which is pretty lucrative in Mumbai. So if you're a writer, that helps. And the important thing is to first become financially secure. That's what I did by doing my radio show for the first 5 years. Then once I became financially secure, now I said, now I can afford to make a film. So that's very important. And also important thing is to have your own personal convictions. Like, for example, when I made this film Balls, firstly, nobody could believe that I would be able to raise the finances. This is where I used all my marketing skills. You have got to have the most amazing marketing skills, because more than talent in Mumbai, it's your marketing skills, your self-promotion that helps, dude. So you could be an average talent person like a lot of actors out there, but you just market yourself. So I took the help of Facebook. Also, you need to have a product which is very different from people, from what you usually get. So when I made Balls, my whole idea was to shock people. So I said, if I shock people, they will pay attention to me. So I don't need a film star. I don't need a film star to promote my first film. Then also the important thing is to sometimes believe in your inner voice, even though, for example, sexuality is a taboo even now in India. But the idea is that you have to believe that you will be the person to break the barriers. And do it. Now that it's ready, I'm getting a lot of calls from international film festivals. So somewhere you have to believe that it'll happen. Avoid negative people in your life. If you've got negative friends who are pulling you down, get rid of them as soon as possible.
Get rid of them. They're no good. They're bad news. I myself am born and raised in Canada, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are as well. And I'm curious, I'm sure just as much as they are, what Bollywood and the film industry in Mumbai is really like. Can you please give us a little bit of insight into that?
Well, to begin with, all the gossip that you read about all the affairs of the film stars, it is true, and much more than that, in various permutations and combinations that you would not want to believe. But it's all very true. And the second thing is, all the horror stories about compromises that you have to make are, I would say, 80% true. But I'll tell you what, today people coming to Mumbai, or I think are very much sorted in the sense that you have to know what your priorities are and to what extent you're willing to go, whether that is in terms of time. Like for example, it took me a good 10 years to make my first film. I could wait it out. Do you have that kind of passion? You must ask yourself. If you're the kind of guy who wants all your answers in 6 months, you can't face the heat, you can't face the railway trains, the traffic, then forget it. Secondly, the compromises that we talk about, that models have to sleep for work and actors, yes, a lot of it does happen. At the same time, you can go this long route, which also does work out. It might not lead you to the same destination, but you would get good, honest work as well. But yes, there are people who have taken the shortcut and have worked also. It's worked out for them. But then ultimately, it's about how far you want to go. Also, I think this is a very exciting time for filmmakers, especially if any of you all are there wanting to make films, wanting to come in films. Another great thing about the industry now is that there are a lot of different avenues of revenue besides just films. You've got television, you've got reality shows, you've got dramas, you've got ads, you've got performances, you've got radio, you've got theatre. So it's a very exciting time. So it's not, you've got film stars who become TV stars now. So, it's not just sort of only films. That's it,
It's almost like because there's so much going on that it's also getting more and more competitive, which means an individual cannot succeed unless they truly have the passion. They can't just wake up in the morning and say, hey, I would like to be an actor and make it big. They would actually need the drive and be willing to work as hard as you did, and I think that's fantastic advice. So this brings me to my next question, veering off of passion. What was the hardest decision that you had to make throughout your years and throughout writing and broadcasting and directing to be where you are now? The hardest decision?
I think 2-3 hard decisions I made. One was not to leave radio. When I was in Mumbai, I was getting a very good offer by Vivek Oberoi, the actor. He was getting into films a few years back, and he had offered me a film as a writer, but I was also getting a chance as a radio host of a popular show at the same time. Now, I always wanted to do films, but I was not financially secure. So my big chance at that time was, why shouldn't I do a film? But I knew that the film industry is so fickle. I don't even know whether this actor is promising me a script, whether I'll even do it or not, whether I'll get full credit for it or not. So I decided to be financially secure, do the radio show. I worked hard for 3 years. Then I went into films. So that was one hard decision.
Wonderful. That's a perfect example of focusing on yourself and doing stuff for yourself. Okay, another example.
A second one was waiting for my first film for a good 3 years, when a lot of people told me to move on to a different subject. My film, would you believe it, I can probably be in the Guinness book for this. I got signing amounts by 3 different producers. The first producer bailed out on me because of recession. The second producer, I don't know where he lost the money, so we were almost stranded in Bangkok. So my script was basically lying with me for the last 2.5 years. This is my second film which I've just shot for. Finally, I got another producer who was very impressed by the way I made my first film in just $45,000. So he decided to produce the film for me. Eventually, we finished that film just a month before I came here. So it took me a good 3 years. A lot of people said, forget it, just move on to a different script. But a lot of people, again, this is where you have your self-conviction, and then you surround yourself with also people who are saying, yes, you can do it. And now it's done. And also, I think you have to be ready to make compromises. Like, for example, if you think that, like, I wanted to make this film in a 3 crore budget. Eventually, I made it in just 90 lakh rupees. But then that's okay. The production values suffered, but I eventually made my film. So somewhere another thing you have to remember is, do not be stubborn. Do not have an ego. Do a lot of networking. Even if you have to sometimes kiss ass of people that you do not like, that's a very uncomfortable truth in the industry, that half of the people who work with each other hate each other's guts. But you have to work with them because it's a very small industry. You can't avoid them. And don't make enemies.
Don't make enemies. It's all very true. It's all very relevant in the industry. And I'm sure you will have friends and you will have enemies. And this brings me on to my next question. Because rejection and hardships are a reality of life and not everything's always handed to you on a silver platter, has there ever been an instance where you have written a script, produced a short film, some piece of artwork, whether it's a song or anything, sent it off and had yourself rejected, where someone's just straight out said, this is absolute crap, this is bogus, this is not art, I do not want this? If so, how have you sort of overcome that and moved on to become where you are right now? What's that train of thought, that mental push Give us some insight into that.
Okay. One example. My mother, who's my harshest critic, when I was doing my radio show, I decided to play this very flirtatious character on my radio show who gives basically a lot of kisses to his female audiences. So I would do a lot of on my show. And a lot of people were shocked initially that this guy who started off doing this very romantic, sweet, soft shows is suddenly into hardcore, like, you know, heavy duty, like, and all that stuff. And my mother's like, how can you do that? I said, Mummy, you have to learn to move with the times. This is not Dilip Kumar's age. This is Imran Hashmi's age. So unfortunately or fortunately, you have to learn to go with the time. And trust me, that's now become my signature. Like, people wait for my kisses. Yeah. So it's a small thing like that where you take a risk. It could have totally blown in my face and people could have said this is like either very crude or very cheesy or whatever. Right. A second example being the film, both the films that I've made. One is targeting a lot of film stars and a lot of people that we approached, producers, like big producers, mind you. The biggest I met, they were shocked. They liked the film in many ways, but they said this film will not be accepted. The film industry will ostracize you because I have made a lot of sneaky references to a lot of film stars. And a lot of people told me that, boy, you're just starting off your film career and you don't want to rub people off the wrong way by targeting or making a satire on film stars. And I said, you know what? I got to do this. And I found a producer who actually believes that that is the strength of the film. And also, let's not forget that today is the time of the youth. So make films which are geared towards the youth, because fortunately or unfortunately, not too many 60-year-olds go to watch films. So today you see movies like LSD, Udan, Ragini MMS, all the films recently in India have all been about the youth. So that kind of worked, you know. So it's a risk that you take, and I know my film is going to create a lot of hangama, a lot of commotion, but you've got to be ready for that. You know, the repercussions are very strong, especially in a country like India. A movie like My Name is Khan got a lot of political flack. A lot of films like Arakshan, which recently released, was not released in 3 states in India because of raising the issue of caste. But you got to do it if you want to make a statement.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm a full believer in that.
I think that's why this film that I've made probably symbolizes my personal philosophy in life.
Let's go through that page by page. It looks very colorful. And what is this exactly that we're seeing?
T-shirts that we've designed for our film, which we are selling like hot cakes to all the college students for just $200. This is basically says, "Do you have the balls?" In English, says, "Do you have the balls?" And I think you know what those are. And this is a feminist statement, so this is for women. I will chop off your balls if you stay any longer. So this is, women are loving this. The most popular for guys is this one. They just love this for some reason. I have the balls to wear this t-shirt, because we're kind of saying that if we have the balls to make this film and these 12 people have the balls to talk about their personal lives in our film, to support them, you can wear this t-shirt, because you're in a way saying that you have the balls to do something which 90% of Indians will not do. So that's what really my balls are having a ball. So that's pretty much, so this is really my basic funda in life. So do you have the balls, the guts to be yourself? That's what our film talks about. That do you have the ball, the conviction to believe in yourself, to live life on your terms, and to not care a damn about what society thinks. If you have it, then you're going to succeed. Trust me, it might take time, but you'll do it.
Wonderful message from Anirudh Chawla. Great advice. Anirudh Chawla, I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I'm so privileged to talk with you. And to the viewers, final thoughts, final words to allow them to feel as if they can reach their full potential.
Well, for one, I will definitely, if you wish, I can give you my Facebook ID. It's Anirudh Chawla. If you want any kind of guidance or tips on filmmaking or how to succeed in Mumbai, you can add me on Facebook, Anirudh Chawla. Secondly, I would like to say that I think it's tough being in this industry, but you've got to stick it out. And I think you have to know what you yourself stand for. If you don't know who you are as a person, the world will just maul you. So I think believe in yourself, be who you are, don't be what somebody else has made you. Because that's what our film is about, and that's what I believe in. That I think don't do what your parents are expecting you to do or what society expects from you. So whether it is your sexuality or your professional preferences, just be yourself.
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
get it, go ahead and ask. Okay.
Scared of drowning. Yeah, I love the water, but I'm damn scared of it.
Oh my gosh, I bet. For sure. Okay. Know you on a little more of a deeper level. Thanks so much. Take care.
Great, man.